Hi, everybody. I'm your big brother in recovery, Abraham, coming back to you with another inspirational, or better yet still, educational and encouraging video series based upon recovery. For those of you who are new to the channel, welcome, and realize that this channel is solely dedicated to one purpose, and that is offering the newcomer suggestions on recovery. So that's basically what we do here. And I am a person in long-term recovery. And what that means is I haven't had the need to use any mind or mood-altering substances since November 17th, 1980. All right? And I'm not saying that to be braggadocious, but I'm saying that to help the person who is recovering and let them know that we do recover, because that is the message that we're supposed to carry to the person who is still suffering, as step 12 says. But in order to do that, we must have had a spiritual awakening. Why a spiritual awakening? Had it ever dawned on you that maybe you were spiritually asleep to principles? You know, they talk about principles before personalities. And I know I was spiritually asleep, or how about this, spiritually ignorant to principles that were of a spiritual nature. And I didn't realize I didn't know what I didn't know. But after going through the process, like page 29 says, further on, clear-cut directions are given on how we recovered. Once my sponsor took me through that process, I began to glean those insights and make those principles applicable to my life, and they started to change my personality. And I realized I got awoken to the fact that my personality was not me. My personality was a tool to be used by me, but the real me lived inside of me, which is my spirit. My personality was my mind. So today, as a person who has recovered, I no longer do what comes to my mind. My spirit now controls my mind. So with that being said, we recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, because page 23 tells us the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body, because his mind is killing his body and his body is killing his mind. You know, today happens to be the 4th of April, and you know, the world celebrates what is called April Fools. It's a traditional day, and I love a quote by Mark Twain that says, April 1st is the day upon which we are reminded of what we are on the other 364 days. You know, I pride myself as a person that is in pursuit of spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection, because I think spiritual perfection is evasive, but I believe spiritual progress is attainable because it's more realistic. So with that being said, I'm going to tell you what I believe today's topic is, and it's not derogatory, but it is of a informational nature. My good friend Mr. T once said, I pity the fool. And that's pretty much what I want to talk about, the fool. And I'm not calling anybody a fool, but do you agree that there are a lot of people making some foolish errors out there right now? And I'll get off into some of them that I've heard up front, like having meetings in your home and doing all kinds of things where you're congregating with people and you're not adhering to social distances, and you are in people's space. This is a really interesting time right now. Some people are succumb by fear. And you know, in our last video, we talked about fear not, and we talked about how to recite the fear prayer and continue to do that, because the opposite of fear is faith, and that's what we're going for. But the fool operates in fear, and the wise person operates in faith. And I'm going to show you something. On page 64, it tells us something interesting about the fool. Let me get to it right quick. It's in the first paragraph on page 64, but let's read the last sentence. If the owner of the business, Bill was making an analogy about step 4, making a personal inventory. So the owner is you. If the owner of the business is to be successful because they realize they were unsuccessful, that's why they're doing this in-depth inventory to look at their liabilities and convert them into assets. Notice what it says. He cannot fool himself about values. So the fool is the person who does not appreciate or understands values. That's why I pity the fool at this time, because faith is a value. The principles behind the steps are values. Why? They're important. And we didn't come this far to continue to be foolish. That's the difference between being clean and being sober. Clean is entire abstinence, but sobriety is on a whole nother level. It is, in other words, going from insanity to sanity, because clean is simply entire abstinence. But you can get clean and never get sober. But you cannot get sober without first getting clean. So I want to draw our attention to a few places because, first of all, we're living in a perilous time right now, to where as though people are quarantining themselves. I don't have that liberty because I am a substance abuse counselor and I'm carrying a message to those that are still sick and suffering both in and out of the rooms. And I have to rely on something our big book says on page 83, and I'd like to draw your attention there. And let's see, page 83. Notice what it says. It says in the first paragraph, the spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. Notice that's in italicized print. So therefore, the writers of the big book want to draw specific emphasis to living it. This is about a lifestyle, not just talk therapy. I know many of my friends right now are scrambling, and I'm not here to judge nobody because only God can judge you. And I don't want you to take out of context what I'm saying right now, but either you believe in God right now or you don't. And I'd like to draw your attention to something on page 53. It comes to mind. Page 53. Let's look at that right quick. Second paragraph. When we became alcoholics, crushed by a self-imposed crisis we could not postpone or evade, we had to fearlessly face the proposition that either God is everything or else he's nothing. God either is or he isn't. What was our choice to be? If you still trying to figure out if he is or he isn't, I'm a little concerned about you. I'm in this with you, but we're living in a time right now where you got to choose a side. There is no middle of the road solution right now. Our book tells us on page 55, if you would just go to it, second paragraph, it says, actually, we were fooling ourselves. For deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. In other words, basic idea, right? You remember the ABCs of recovery? A, you were alcoholic and couldn't manage your own life. That's kind of like step 1. B, probably no human. That means your sponsor, the people you're on the phone with, the fellowship could relieve you of your alcoholism or your addiction. and see God, could and would if he was sought. Notice, if is conditional. Sought is a verb. You got to seek him diligently, because I read in a book of betterment that God rewards those who diligently, continuously seek him, because guess what? You won't be able to experience the power if you don't get connected to the power. It's just that simple. Notice what it says. It may be obscured by calamity. That's what we're going through right now. By pomp, that's pride. By worship of other things. Guess what? Worshiping people right now to help solve your problem, instead of using this time that we are segregated or excluded from a lot of stuff, because there's a silver lining in all this, to cultivate that relationship with your creator. Notice what it says, but in some form or other, it is there. For faith and the power greater than ourselves, and miraculous demonstrations of that power in human lives are facts as old as man himself. Look at the next paragraph. We finally saw that faith in some kind of God was a part of our makeup. It's built into us. Just as much as the feeling we have for a friend. Sometimes we have to search fearlessly, sound like step 4, but he was there, capital He. He was as much a fact as we were. We found the great reality, meaning God, deep down within us. In the NAS analysis, it is only there that he may be found. It was so with us. So instead of me, I'm talking about me, trying to find solace and serenity in members right now, which I do want to hear from members, and I do participate, but I'm cultivating my relationship with God, because at the end of the day, the spiritual life is not a theory, it's a way of life. And I like to draw your attention to page 62. I just want to reiterate this, because as Mr. T said, I pity the fool. And the fool is the person, and I'll tell you what he says, the fool from the religious perspective is the person who says in his mind or in his heart, there is no God, right? So I'm going to go through all these other half measures, and they avail as nothing. It's either you believe God is or he isn't at this point. And for those of us who do believe, we are cheering on those of you who are straddling on the fence. You got to make a choice. Because on page 16, I know I told you to go to 62. On page 16, Bill W. said something that was real interesting, and I'm going to show you what he said. If you look at the second paragraph, in the last sentence in the second paragraph on page 16, faith has to work 24 hours a day in and through us, or we perish. And guess what? God didn't bring me nor you this far to be overcome or succumb to anything other than his will. And guess what his will is? For you and your family to increase more and more during these most uncertain times. Now I'd like to draw your attention back to page 62. I just want to give you some hope during these hopeless or seemingly hopeless and helpless times. There is a lot of hope, and there's tremendous help, and ultimately there's one with all power who wants to help you. He's not trying to take nothing from you, but definitely trying to get something to you. Page 62. This is the how and why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter in this drama of life, you would agree, it's a lot of drama, God was going to be our director. He is the principal. We are his agents. He is the father, and we are his children. Most good ideas are simple. Guess what I believe the good ideas are? Trust God, clean house, and help others. And this concept was the keystone of a new and triumphant, victorious arc through which we pass to freedom. So that tells me freedom isn't free. Freedom costs. And you know what that cost is? You're going to have to choose a side. You're going to have to make a decision, a conscious decision on whose side you want. Are you on the side of faith or are you on the side of fear? And I'm just going to tell you, if you're on the wrong side, you need to check out. Keep saying that fear prayer, right? Because God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound or a sober mind. When we sincerely took such a position, I told you you're going to take a situation here, position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer being all powerful. He provided what we needed. If we kept close to him, here's the condition, and performed his work well. I'm noticing when I take care of God's business, he takes care of mine. And I'll tell you a revelation I got, because revelation is a higher form of education, because revelation with no education is limited to information. When you take care of God's business, he'll take care of yours. And guess what? I not only need God, but he needs me, because God is a spirit being looking for a human being to fulfill his will in this world. And guess what? I chose a side. And when I chose that side and made that decision, thy will be done, not mine, miracles started to take place. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves. Watch this. Our little plans and designs. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. That's all I'm interested in. As we felt new power flow in. So I'm not powerless. I got tremendous power, because I'm connected to the one with all power. As we enjoy peace of mind, I am totally at peace. No fear, nowhere in my life. My family and I, we are fine, and I pray that you and your family are too. God is increasing us financially, spiritually. There's no qualms, no nothing, because we're trusting and relying upon God, as we read last time on the video, no longer just believing. There is a matriculation or a maturity process that you must go through. We face life successfully. As we became conscious of his presence, we begin to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. Notice what it says next. We are reborn, or better yet still, as the pastor says, we are born again. Now, I don't know what you feel about that, but guess what? I know in whom I trust, and I know exactly who's got me during these most precious times. These are some strange times. Our world has never seen anything like it. So I just want to keep on your mind and your consciousness that, you know what, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. Whatever makes you feel that you're doing the right thing, as long as you are doing the right thing, do it. Continue to be safe while you're out there, and don't put people in jeopardy by opening up your homes to have meetings. I understand the phone lines. Do whatever you need to do safely. Respect people's personal space through social distancing. Wash your hands for 20 seconds or more. And by all means, continue to pray for people, because everybody doesn't have it like we are, because we're all on different levels. But you know what? Those of us who have a God, we trust him. And I'm not apologizing for my relationship, because guess what? After 39 years in recovery, I should have one, or I need to just get this thing completely up. So I want to conclude with something on page 99 at the bottom of the page. As a matter of fact, the last sentence on page 99. And it is a reminder, and it's a reminder to all. And I know some of you may get upset, or some of you may thank me for it. But I need to remind you, like this says, remind the people in recovery, or the prospect, that your recovery is not dependent upon the people you're on the phone with. Your recovery is not dependent on the fellowship. Your recovery is not dependent on your therapist. Your recovery is not dependent on these videos. Look what it says. It's dependent upon your relationship with God. And you know what? I pray to God that you understand the difference, like the Serenity Prayer says, the difference between the two, between people and God. So look, I just thank you for listening to me. I want you all to be safe, you and your family. Please leave me some comments. Stay on the phone lines if you feel you need to talk to people. Talk to them, but use this time because it is a blessing in disguise, because I'm an optimist, not a pessimist. Use this time to cultivate your relationship with your Creator, because guess what? He wants to spend some time with you. And it's possible. I'm going to make a statement. I'm going to go out there. Is it possible that we got so addicted on meetings until we overlook relationship? I'm enjoying these times right now. I am keeping it real simple. I am doing the necessary things I need to do to improve and keep myself spiritually fit. I'm not resting on my laurels. And I'm praying for people, and I know people are praying for me. So, without further ado, I just thank you for tuning in. Please leave me some comments at the bottom. Share this with your friends, because, we're limited on a lot of things that we can do. But know this. I want to read one more thing for you that just comes to mind, if you allow me to. I think it's found on page 56. It's about a gentleman who was a minister's son, and he hated religion, but he thought he disliked God. But he had the nerve to question if there was a God. Page 56, let's pick up with the second paragraph. You can read 56 and 57 for yourself. One night when confined in a hospital, he was approached by an alcoholic, watch this, who had known a spiritual experience. So the person that came to him had recovered. He had did step 12. How do I know this? He had been spiritually awoken or spiritually aware of the principles, and he wanted to pass this on to the brother that was still sick, even though he had been in church and a minister's son. Our friend Gorge rose as he bitterly cried out, watch this, as most people say, if there is a God, he certainly hasn't done anything for me, still hiding behind that spirituality stuff, right? Watch this. Ebby gave Bill simple religious ideas. But later on, along in this room, he asked himself this question. Is it possible that all the religious people I have known are wrong? The big book says be quick to see where religious people are right. So I can't shun them. I need to be open-minded, right? While pondering the answer, he felt as though he lived in hell. Then, like a thunderbolt, a great thought came. It crowded out all else. And look what the thought was. Who are you to say there is no God? Wow. It's almost similar to what Bill experienced when he was in the hospital, when he called Dr. Silkworth to find out if he was still sane. And Silkworth said, I don't know what happened to you, but you better keep what you got. This man recounts that he tumbled out of bed to his knees. Check this out. In a few seconds, he was overwhelmed by a conviction of the presence of who? Higher power? No, God. It poured over and through him with the certainty and majesty of a great tide at flood, similar to what Bill said on 14. The barriers he had built through the years were swept away. That was his perception. And you remember my video about your perception could be causing your deception? He stood in the presence of infinite power and love. He had stepped from bridge to shore. Oh, he in the deep now. Watch this. He's no longer believing. He is trusting and relying, because you out there in the middle of the doggone deep. For the first time, he lived in conscious companionship with his Creator. He was no longer subconscious. He was totally aware. Thus was our friend's cornerstone fixed in place. Sound like step 2. came to believe that a power greater than yourself can restore you to sanity. And you know, the step 2 question was found on page 47 in the second paragraph. Notice what they said: upon this simple cornerstone, a wonderfully spiritual structure can be built. No later vicissitude has shaken it. Notice what happened once he accepted and joined the side. His alcoholic problem was taken away. What? Away. That very night, years ago, it disappeared. Say that in a meeting and see what happens when this coronavirus is lifted. Save for a few brief moments of temptation, the thought of drink has never returned. And at such times of great revulsion has risen up in him. Seemingly, he could not drink it even if he would. What? God had restored his sanity. My God. What is this but a miracle of healing? Yet, its elements are simple. Notice what the prerequisites are. Circumstances made him willing to believe. He humbly offered himself to his Maker. Then he knew. Right now, guess what? You can't go to support groups. You're limited on what you can do. Some people are unemployed. The food stores are like the Rolling Stones in town. So many people in the stores. You know what? Circumstances are making people choose a side. That's why I say I pity the fool, because the fool has said, you know what? I'm going to hide behind this spirituality. You know, you better pick a side. You better get on to something. Even so has God restored us all to our right minds. To this man, the revelation was sudden. You remember AA number 3, Bill Dobson? He recovered immediately. Bill recovered immediately. So did Dr. Bob. Some of us grew into it more slowly, but he has come to all who have honestly sought him. So I hope you're doing that. That is the C in the ABCs. In other words, see that God could and would if he was sought. You got to do something. This is a blessing in disguise right now. When we draw near to him, he disclosed himself to us. Now I'm going to read a disclaimer to you because I know some of you are going to take this in various ways. I'm not promoting religion. I'm promoting relationship. And I want to give you a disclaimer because, watch this, no amount of information will ever please a fool. And you could tell a fool the minute they open up their mouth. You know why? Because the mouth only speaks what the mind is full of. And those of us who have recovered, we don't share anything but, guess what? Enlightenment, empowerment, and equip people to do better, as opposed to casting fear, doubt, and insecurity, which causes anxiety in people. I want to see you make it. And not only that, I know you're going to make it. Use this time to talk less to people and more to God. Now I'm going to close with this disclaimer. Second paragraph on page 164. Our book is meant to be suggested only. This ain't the only way to recover. This is one out of 80 ways I know. We realize we know only a little. I told you the more I learn, the less I find out I know. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. That sounds like more to be revealed. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. I do it every day. Every day. Why? Because I was once sick. The answer will come. That sounds like a promise. If, this is what the promise is contingent upon. If your own house is in order. A lot of houses not in order. But obviously, you can't transmit something you haven't got. That's powerful. See to it that your relationship, I told you that's the main thing we're trying to recover is relationship. Because no relationship, no recovery. That's what this thing is all about. Once you get relationship, you get power. Once you get power, guess what? Nothing can stop you. Once you see that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. Why? Because he wants to use you. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Notice, not as religion said it. What's your conception, right? Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past, because you can't see your future by being haunted by the wreckage of your past. So here's the whole 12-step process. Watch this. Give freely of what you find. That's what I'm doing now. And join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit. Not the rooms, the Spirit. And you will surely meet some of us as you trudge through the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you unto the end. And that's my prayer for you. Hey, look, this is your big brother Abraham, trying to continue to encourage you as you are on your road to recovery, letting you know that there's nothing to fear but fear itself. Try not to be a fool. And you know what? As we often say, help somebody and keep praying. We're going to get through this. Everything's going to be better than what it was. I thank you for listening to me. Talk to you soon. Bye.